Alright guys, so this is Ninja Andrew and
Ninja Misty.
and we are here to do a Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn PlayStation 3 review. So we're here at the start screen. I'm just going to go right ahead and start it up. And I have a ton of characters made, but I'm going to actually go ahead and create a new character. And we're going to talk a little bit about the character creation. So, Missy, what do you like about character creation? Because I know that for both of us, character creation has sort of been our favorite part of the game.
Well, I think that clearly from looking at it, that you can make a character that looks really nice, that fits in with the Final Fantasy aesthetic. You have a decent amount of choices. I'd like to see more. We've talked about this. I have the feeling that you will see more, either that you can purchase.
Hairstyles,
that you go and are able to do once you are in the game, a little down the road. So, I think you can make some really good looking characters. I know you definitely can make some really cute characters. And I think outside of the fact that I find most of the voices incredibly irritating, I think they do a decent job of giving you a moderate amount of choices. I'd always like to see more, but that's me. And I know you would as well.
yes, yeah. I think that like we were just looking there. Actually, I'll go back for a second. These are all the hairstyles that are available. You've got, looks like 12, 13 hairstyles total to choose from. So like there is some variety, but it's like, kind of short hairstyle number 1, short hairstyle number 2, 3, I guess. But you're getting into longer and longer hairstyle. It's hard to find maybe sometimes something that doesn't look like everybody else has used already as well. Because you see, you could create a character that uses all the pieces that you're just like, why would you use that to get yourself a character that's really original looking? But it's kind of like, if that's the extreme that you have to go to, then it's kind of like, well, what's the point,
Sure.
I like the coloration options are great. The fact that you can if you really want to, give your character highlights in their hair, that's actually kind of cool. He looks like a skunk. I think I'm gonna leave it like that. But things like this, where you have face options. It's 4 different face options, so you got to find what you want within those 4 faces. Basically, the limiting factor comes in when you start making lots of characters, because you get to know the ones that you like, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's the one I like, so that's the one I always end up using, and there isn't enough variety where you're like, oh, there's another cool one, maybe I'll try that one out too. You're always just kind of like, this is how it looks good for me, this is what I'm used to, so you end up with a whole bunch of characters that kind of look the same at the end, which I get it, but it's just that makes me believe that as much variety as there is, that even the eye shape, it's not like there's a huge difference, slightly different shapes.
Sure. And depending on the face, each face, the eye shape changes.
Yes, that is true. If you change the faces, that you do get slightly different options, I will say. You can get different beards for different shaped faces. So that's not bad. They did put some thought in there. It's just that I ended up feeling like I had a bunch of clone characters. You know what I mean? And it makes me wonder if it's there aren't actually lots of clone characters out there in the game. You know what I mean? So it's kind of I wish there's just a little bit more variety there, Sorry, I meant to turn off the odd eyes. Here we go. Okay. So, they do have some options. You can give your character the style of look that you think works best, you know? But I did end up always, like, the options that you're seeing me pick here, pretty much the options that I chose on every character. So it's kind of like, after you do all that, you know?
Right.
I guess, like, okay, I will give them credit that I do like the races. I wish there were a few more. But it's like, you can create, like, a tall elven-looking character and give yourself something slightly different, or the Rogadin, the big, huge guys. Like, there are different looks there. It's just that I still feel like, even within those, you still would have limited options. Like, I'm now at facial features. So for, like, a guy, you've got beard, mustache, one style, no other styles. Like, if you wanted a goatee, you could put the two together, but it still wouldn't look very much like a goatee. And two rings, but both, or two earrings, but they're both in one ear.
Sure.
So you can't even have, like, an earring in each ear. And it just makes me wonder, like, why not? Why wouldn't you put in something that's just, it's as easy as flipping it, you know what I mean? To the opposite side, like, I don't know. 5 options, and that's pretty standard for what you get with all the characters. So I'm not, like, for me, this is my point. I'm not even going to choose an option because there isn't one that's cool enough to be worth choosing, you know? So it's kind of like, that's a letdown. Same with tattoos. You got a streak under each eye as your only tattoo options. You can color them if you really want. Face paint does get into more unique kinds of stuff. You can see there's quite a few options there, and you could do something pretty cool with those. I just wish that there was, like, layering. I wish I could put, like, okay, if I want the slashes across my face, let's say, like, or I put that at the same time with this band across my eyes. Make something that's my own, make them 2 different colors. That's just an example, but it's like, it feels like missing options, you know?
Sure.
You know? So I'm just going to go ahead here. You do have a wide selection of voices. I'm going to agree with Misty that it's like there's only 1 or 2. This is the one that I find is, like, the most generic, general one that I would like. The rest is kind of like, there are a lot of good ones. It's just, they all have their own particular flavor. So I'm just going through them real quick. Just on a one basic. This is their angry emote. I think this one sounds the best. There you go. That's all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and start the game up now, and we'll continue our review as we go. Not going to even save the appearance data. Just going to go right ahead here. I did always like choosing Roger as my thing, and let's do Disciples of Magic Conjurer, because that's the one that we've played the most of. And where can I build a character? Put one on here. Let's see if I can get the name. Okay, now, this is one thing that, as I'm putting in the name for this character, Misty and I talked about this. This is where we start getting into issues for console players. In order to select, to put in your name, you have to select the box you want to put it in, and then with X, and then press triangle to bring up your keyboard. Then you have to press circle to back out twice, go over to the next box, press X, press triangle. It's a very convoluted, like, why can't you just go one box, press X, back out with one circle, go over to the next box, press X, back out with one circle? I don't understand why there's, like, 6 different steps, you know what I mean, to put your name into one box. And this is true across all chat formats of the game. You press X, and then you have to press triangle to bring up your keyboard. That would be, like, point number 1, where that just doesn't feel right, and doesn't feel right to a console player. And I'm just gonna put that, like, file that in your memory, and we'll go back to more stuff like that later. I'm just gonna finish putting in the name here, because we'll have more to show you as we go. Okay, so I have to back out again twice. Now I can hit confirm. Okay, so we're gonna go in. Hopefully the server issues have been sorted out enough where this will actually put me into the game now. They've had a little bit of time now to figure all that stuff out. And that's sort of like, our review is not going to touch too much upon that, but sort of think about the server issues are just on top of everything else that we're going to talk about. So we'll touch on them at the end. Okay, world is currently full of players in queue 2. That means it'll queue me in a couple seconds here. So I will just wait.
For sure.
You know? So basically, I guess part of it is, like, both of us were looking forward to this game. Yes. You know? Both of us were like, Final Fantasy, MMORPG, can't wait to play it, can't wait to try this out, looks really exciting. Graphically, this game looks really awesome. I'm not going to deny. Could be a little bit better. It is running on older technology. I don't think it's quite the same level as, like, Final Fantasy XIII's engine. This is just my speculation. But it does look pretty. And it's cute. And it's fun to play on a cuteness factor level. But we'll get into more. Here's the intro video. So you can see here, they actually are, there is, like, a vocal track, or rather, like, audio with English. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just saying that for this cutscene, you get audio.
Is that the overview, like, welcome to the city?
No, this is the, like, I'm just watching the scene where you see the big dude, the shadow.
You're being imbued with your powers.
Yeah, and like, there's somebody saying, "Here, feel, thing."
Yeah.
In the background. So you get like that here, but we're about to go into the game and we'll see. Oh, don't I look epic? Yes. So I'm not going to deny they did a decent job on the cutscenes. The fact that it's using the character that you just built, that's pretty decent. You know?
Sure.
Alright, so now we're headed in to the game itself. And what is this? Oi, it's text windows.
Lots of text windows.
Yeah. So, like, I'll try to go slow enough so that if you're really interested, you can read along with this dude, but, like, as we're talking here. So it's just, like, I understand text windows to communicate in video games. I grew up on playing PlayStation 2 games where it was nothing but text when you went to talk to the various people within the game that, like, would give you your missions. You'd still get the cutscenes with full audio, but then everything else would be. Now, it's kind of confusing to me why they would do that. for an MMO this
Actually,
far into... What's that?
I was talking to a guy at GameStop, and he was telling me that they just didn't want to bother to translate and get
Voice actors?
voice actors for the 4 major languages that they use.
They should let fans submit their own voice tracks, let them read different characters, pick the best ones, and then just add them to the game. But that's just my opinion. But
So I don't know if the Japanese actually have it. It may have audio.
the Japanese probably does have audio. I would bet it does. But it's like, once again, this is something where it's like, you take the reason for playing this game, the storyline, and you turn it into something that you don't really want to read at all, because literally, like, you're going to be looking at pages and pages and pages and pages of text, like, just to talk to one character, to get your mission, to go and do one thing, because they have to tell you their whole life story about why it's so important that you need to go and get this thing for them, and who you're going to go and meet when you go and get there, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, and then it pops up a window where it's like, oh, this person, like the summary, this person needs to go over here and get this thing from this person. Why isn't it just that? Why? And then have audio that's telling me, like, making me interested in the story and all this kind of stuff. Because, like, here, I'm used to playing these kind of games. It's not like it's, like, completely foreign to me, but it's just, there is so much text in this game to carry the stuff along that it's like, you're before you've even gotten through the intro level missions, you're already just like skip, go to mission. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, there's just too much just inane chatter that goes nowhere, you know? So even here, like, I'll continue forward with this conversation. This guy's gonna introduce you to the city, and like, it starts here because he's going to ask you at some point along this journey, okay, why did you become an adventurer? Just, most people are like, oh, power, glory, fortune. Just in case you were wondering, there's a 4th option called ... It is another option. You can hit it, and it's like, I don't know why I came here. Just for people that were wondering, because I saw another Let's Play, and the person was like, there's only those 3 options. It's kind of like, well, don't you see the ... there, buddy? You know? But, so he's going to keep going ahead. He's going to tell you, you know, a little bit about himself or whatever. I'm pretty sure there's going to be like there's a little interruption to your journey. This is true for like any of the cities, because you start your different characters in 3 different cities depending on which one you choose. You're basically going through the same intro with each one, which will feed into another point that we will make later on. But here you go. There's a little interruption. They stop him. More text to read. Like it would have been so much more interesting if they had been voiced. Say it with actions, not text. Right. You know? Even then, saying it with actions and not making me read lines and lines of text would have been an improvement. You know?
I agree.
You know? So he's going to keep going on here. He's going to eventually ask me, like, is this your first time to the city? Right? And you have the choice to answer yes or no, right? Here we go. Is this your first trip to Gridania? So, I haven't never clicked yes, because I wanted to wait to do it until we were doing this Let's Play. But the sad thing is I'm going to click no, because even when you click no, you still have to listen to miles and miles of text of him explaining what the city is and what goes on there. And it's kind of like, if you've played this game before, why do you want to sit there and listen to him tell you what you already know?
Right.
You know, it's like that option is supposed to be there so that you can skip that. You know, not so that they can be like, oh, well, even though it's not your first time, here you go. Why did they voice this? He's introducing me to the city, right? Why do they voice this, but not that whole just conversation that I just had? This is in English. You know? And they put subtitles, which I don't understand why, if you're gonna voice it. Looks really nice for a Final Fantasy game. This kind of reminds me of like a really nice looking Final Fantasy 12. That's why I say it's kind of not up to the level of like 13 or the new stuff. I think this game was actually made on an older engine. Because to me it's kind of like, this is kind of like last gen. I think that this game was supposed to come out after Final Fantasy 12, but then they wanted Final Fantasy 13 to be the one with lightning, and this game kind of, it got pushed to 14 just as a number, and then it had all the problems, and you know what I mean? I think it's taken a beating, and we're now just finally getting the game that we should have had after Final Fantasy 12. As like, this should have been coming out with like PlayStation 3 when it launched, and then I would be able to see it and be like, okay, this is kind of cool. This is, you know, for where it is. This coming out now the way that it is, it's just not doing it. You know what I mean? Not doing enough of what it should be doing. My major critique of this game would be that it feels like it does just enough to get by.
Right.
And that's all it does. And we'll go into how that translates further into the game as well.
May the matron take him to her bosom, that he may never want. And in his heart, sow serenity, purity, and sanctity.
They try to make it all, I don't know, deep, but it just doesn't feel like it. Oh no, Final Fantasy X long line V. It's too long to be an I. Even though it should be an I.
You know?
Woot! Alright, so this is going to finally put me in where I can control my character. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the silly things that the game does. And then I think we should go into the game a little bit and just show them around what you're looking at the beginning. And then talk about how that's all you're looking at.
For sure.
You know? Like, this looks really good. I like the fact that they were able to create this so that it would animate your own character. You're not just looking at some, like, from some first-person perspective of stuff going on. Alright, so this guy wants me to go over to basic missions. So this begins the tutorial portion of the game. You can see here it's going to give you your control layout. Just leave that there for a second in case anybody really wants to read it. And then I will remove that. You can see in order to remove it I have to press select and circle. Once again, one of these confounding control issues where it's just like, it looks like a computer menu and it takes 2 buttons for me to close it. I don't just have a cursor that I can control with my thumb to go and hit the X that's up in the corner like a PC player would. I have to do 2 different buttons in order to do it, you know? So you've got here, it's going to tell you the instructions. Basically, when you start out the game, there is a built-in tutorial segment. I think if I run the opposite direction, yeah, it brings the tutorial back up again. So it's like, every time you do something, or every time there's something new for you to learn, it's going to pop up one of these menus, and you're going to have to be like select and circle to close it. Even if it's information that's very basic and something that you would already know. So that leads me to going into your options, because it's like, I don't want that. I don't want stuff that's interrupting me, that's causing me to, like, It's really immersion breaking because you suddenly have this all of these menus popping up in your face, and you have to press 2 buttons to get rid of them. You're in the middle of doing something. You're not always going to be like, oh yeah, select, circle. That's so easy to do. It's really, you want me to take my fingers off of what I'm doing to control to hit select and circle every 3 seconds? Really annoying.
Right.
Just as a console perspective, like, just wow, you know? So I'm going to go through here. I remember on the I'm going to set up my character. This is the way that I would set up a character if I was going to play the game itself. These are all the options that I would have to change as a console player to make this game better just within what's available. This is not counting the stuff that's not available to me. So first off, I remember that for both of us, an issue was the third-person camera angle. Right? The perspective of having to look down at the floor when you're running around, unless you're like looking up, it can give you motion sickness, you know? So both of us ended up having to like mess around with this. We eventually like, there is no happy medium. You're always going to be sort of looking down, or when you put it all the way up, it's going to cut your character off at the bottom of the screen. So it's kind of like, well, that's kind of disappointing. Why can't I get just like why can't the horizon be at the center of my screen and my character be visible? That's all I'm asking for. You know?
Totally.
You know? Okay. So, moving on. The rest of this stuff is fairly basic options or whatever. The targeting system. Why is this silly? Well, targeting, you're going to be clicking with the X button in this game. I have no idea why. Where in like Kingdom Hearts, targeting was done all through the L1 button, which worked perfectly. And you could select which target you wanted to fight. And, you know what I mean? Lock onto them, fight them, switch to another target. Everything worked beautifully. Here, they don't even let you switch between. Like, if I just went out and played right now, as a healer, I wouldn't be able to go and select, like, let's say I see somebody who's getting injured fighting their thing. I want to just go and throw them a quick heal while I'm running by. I can't even do that unless I go into my options and change my settings to be like, oh, I really want to be able to target everybody like that. You know? Also, you have to put in the setting that you want automatically lock on a target when initiating an auto attack, which is kind of like, why wouldn't it do that anyways? Why do I have to go in and change that option? Also, to save your options, you have to press circle, go down to the bottom, hit apply, go back up, go back to the thing, go over to the next one. Once again, you're looking at more target filtering, where now I can target everything while my weapon is sheathed, which is nice if I'm running around and there's something. But while my weapon is drawn, I still want to be able to target my party members. That would be nice, you know? Party members would be a good one to be able to target. Non-party PCs and minions so that I can heal them. Like, what? I don't understand why I have to go in and set that as an option, especially as a conjurer. I'm going to be playing as a support role. Here you just have some basic, like, do I want to be able to see my helmet, auto sheath weapon? That's all basic stuff. I'm not going to bother too much with that. But just the amount of stuff that you have to do just to get targeting to work for your character. If you didn't know what you were doing with a video game, you came in and tried to play this first time, you'd be lost. I'm just saying. Also here, you have the option. I like my map to be a little bit more see-through, but really the two important ones here: turn off pop-up help, turn off active help windows. Why? Because those are the things that pop up and you end up having to press select and circle all the time. I would watch them if all I had to press was circle. But because I have to press select and circle, they're just too annoying. It's like, I'm not going to bother. Another option section here, this is about displaying names. I want to always be able to see everything's name, how much health it has, because I'm a conjurer. I need to see what type of enemy this is that I'm looking at a distance, and I need to be able to see how much health it has, how much health my friends have, so I have to go in manually and switch my options to be show everything. That's a little ridiculous as well. Those, you do have some more options here, but there's nothing really important there. But those are my major critiques of just all of the options that you have to go and set up as a console player to make this game easier to play. Why aren't they the defaults for for the PlayStation 3 version of the game? You know? So I'm going to go ahead here. I'm also going to go into the system configuration. This is where you have button layout options. I'm just going to do a real quick critique of their button layout here. You can see here that you do have the ability to set what I want on each of these individual buttons. Problem being, you can see how they're divided into 3 sections. I have the section down here at the bottom, which has the 2 control sticks and the click on the control stick. Then you have start, select, the 4 buttons, and then your triggers up at the top. The problem here is that the only options that they give you are what's already there. So in this top option, I can only swap around what I have on my triggers. I can't change R1 to be my triggering or my targeting system because it won't let me. So it's kind of like this option system, while looking like it gives you the option to switch everything, it only really allows you to switch it from left-handed to right-handed, or if I want to use top and bottom triggers versus, you know what I mean, like swap those around. But it doesn't actually let you customize your controls in a way that would make sense for a console player. And my critique of that specifically leads me into that because this game was designed primarily for the Japanese market, that even within their options, like you have an option to swap like circle and X because they want you to swap because in Japan circle is accept and X is cancel, whereas here X is accept and circle is cancel, right? So it's flipped. They allow you to flip it back and forth if you want it to play like the other one, which is nice, but it's like, why don't you have options for Western players to swap the other stuff that's like run? Run isn't usually a trigger for me. Run is usually on one of my control sticks. So why can't I make that run? You know? Just simple stuff like that. I'm now going into HUD layout. And do you want to just say a little bit about what you what you don't like about the HUD, even in broad general terms?
Well, the thing that really struck me when I first started playing, and even when we've watched some videos of other people playing, honest to God, it looks like my desktop with like 5 programs open.
You know, you have like 15 different windows running, 6 different programs all over the place, and
it's so obtrusive.
Even just the hotbar at the bottom where I have my moves, you can see it covers up my character here.
Well, one of my problems is, and that the TV that I play on, I have a huge TV.
Yes.
And even on the huge TV, I still felt like I couldn't see my character. It just didn't... I can't imagine.
And kind of like, that's like the whole part of the game for why you would want to create a character is like so you can see them, not so that they can be hidden behind a million different menus and stuff like that. As well, you'd want your menus to be somewhere that made sense from a visual perspective of like, this is what I'm used to, or this is what I'm comfortable with, and this is where the information is most needed and most needs to be seen versus just putting it wherever it fits for them. And
speaking of the HUD, it's like the Swiss Army knife.
Yes.
It just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding, and to the point where
an element that starts out this size, like tiny, right, can end up expanding out to cover half your screen. Like the duty list, where it gives you your missions.
It's just kind of, it's almost as like, you're a victim of your own success. Yes, you have the ability to customize and give yourself all of these options, but because they've given you this massive amount of space to customize, you lose the gameplay in all of it because you're trying to figure out, okay, well, where did I put that ability? And okay, there's like 8 different things here, and I've opened this, and if you didn't turn off your help tips, that stuff's popping up all the time in the upper
right over top of your character.
Right, because I keep it on because I'm a need-to-know kind of person. So
right,
like,
you don't want to miss out on some important
don't want to miss
tip.
out on something. But, and speaking to the text, it's like it doesn't give you just kind of the quick and dirty. It's like, here is the Tolkien version of every single action.
And so then you're having, that it gives you, yeah.
Right, you're having to flip through 5 pages to disseminate information that could be said in like 2 sentences.
Right.
And that, it was exhausting to me on top of everything else.
Everything else. Right.
Everything else. It was a snooze festival for me.
You can see here, we'll get into that, believe me. So you can see here just how much of my character is being covered up by menus. Now that you can see the actual outlines in the menu. So I'm just going to go ahead here real quickly. And this is how I would adjust the entire layout. You can resize stuff, but it's still in the wrong place. So I'm going to go ahead here and redo this entire HUD layout. This is how I would do it for a console player, just because I know that the game, that there are going to be people who do want to play this game on the console anyways. So this is just like my tip for them, just to make it easier and look nicer. Like, it's just kind of, it's really depressing to see how much of this is just like, this is a total computer game. Like, look at those menus. You know what I mean? Like, every single one of those is there designed to be like dragged around with your mouse and then clicked the X on the corner. You know what I mean? If you want to get rid of them or minimize them or whatever. So it's kind of like you're really gonna put something directly over my character? Like, that's kind of sacrilegious to me, especially for an MMO where you're trying to like see your character, you know?
Well, you're trying to immerse yourself in this gameplay, and it's hard when it just feels like you can't get to the gameplay because you've got all these menus sitting in front of your face.
That's right. So this is once more like, it's disappointing because it's like, these are things that should have really been thought about, especially for the console version of the game. Now I know that one of the issues with the original launch was that people were saying, oh, it's too much of a console game, it looks like it was ported to PC. Well, if the result of that is that you're going to go too far in the opposite direction and make a game that's just for PC to please those people, like, I get that, but it's kind of like,
then just release it on the PC.
Just release it on the PC. Don't get console involved if you're not going to put in the extra thought and effort that it would take to make this something that's really enjoyable to play. You know? So I know that's a harsh critique, but it's just like, I really feel let down that they didn't like look at the stuff that I'm having to do here just to make this even slightly pleasing to look at. Parameter bar, that's the one I want. And put stuff in the places where you would expect to find it. Like, it doesn't help to have something like your health hidden at the bottom of the screen very small. Like, why? I don't understand what the decision making behind doing that is, you know? Or it leads me to believe that a lot of the decision making was made by somebody who plays this game on a PC and doesn't play on a console for the life of them. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, you know the concept of playing on a console, but you don't actually know what it means when it's like this is your bread and butter. This is what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So you want it to feel like it's good and meant to be on there, you know? So I'm going to keep going here. It won't take me much longer to do this, but just like, even here, and some of these, even though I'm like finding spots to put the stuff at the end of this, where it's going to be like, okay, now you can see my character, I don't have a lot of junk in the way, it's still not an ideal HUD setup for a console game, because you're still having menus that are way too large in certain areas, or even though it's a large menu, the information that it's going to show you is going to be so tiny that it's kind of like, well, what's the point?
Right.
You know? Like your player list, it's like you could have made the sizing of the information much larger there, and it would be much clearer to see, okay, who am I targeting, what's going on, who's got health, who doesn't. And it's there, it's just it's tiny. It's like, it's hard to understand. I can understand if you were looking at this on a tiny little computer monitor, you know, and all of the information was there, like, for you to see, like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
All close together like that, but just bunching up this much information on a console game screen, like, it's just kind of like, why? We don't like menus like this, period, anyways, you know? That's totally a PC gamer's invention. Okay. Getting close. Experience. Like, this is the kind of layout that I think, like, most people would be more comfortable with, at least Western players, because it's going to still tell, like, I haven't taken anything away, I've just slightly moved stuff around, and you can see here, okay, now at least I can see my character, right? And I will always be able to see my character, whatever he's doing during battle, so I can keep track of, oh, okay, you're on this move, without having to look at my hotbar. So I'm going to go ahead here, I'm going to save. And this is how I would lay it out. So like once I hit save, you're going to see where stuff is moved to. You can see now I have my hotbar in the bottom right corner of the screen. Parts of this will get cut off, the explanations of what I have in the slots, but that's not important to me. What's important is being able to see those and my character. I've got my experience bar at the bottom. I've got my health in huge letters up at the top of the screen, which will also have the enemy's health listed down underneath it. So if I need any information about what's going on, all I have to do is look up. And that's very easy to do in battle. You know? So that's that part of my... So I'm going to go ahead here. This will be the final part of our thing. I'm going to go ahead and accept the first mission. You can see there, like, a window popped up. It gives a summary, and all you have to do is hit once, but then you have to listen to this guy go on about all this business. You know? And that was only 2 windows, but, like, it gets worse and worse and worse as you go. So I'm going to go here, like... It's little things, like control-wise, like X is target, so X isn't jump. Triangle is jump. Triangle is the jump default for a lot of like Japanese games. Triangle is a default jump for MMOs for them. It's not at all in Western games. X is our default. So it's kind of like you feel like you're getting a game that was not designed for you at all. It was designed for PC, and it wasn't even designed for Western, you know what I mean, audiences. Ugh. Characters look great. But then you gotta listen, you gotta go through these miles of text. Just gonna introduce you to the city. Now, the reason I've gone into the game now is because basically this is what you do for your character now. You go around, you're going to be picking up missions where you listen to lots and lots of text from each of the characters, and every character that you make in this game has to go through this same setup procedure of going through the most basic level missions where you figure out, like, how do I get from one person to another, which was our mission just now. Somebody told us, go and find this person, right? That's like basic mission number 1. Now they're going to be like, take this thing for me to another person, so that when you get to that person, you have to open up your menu, give that person that thing. They might give you something else. The process continues. You have to do this for every character that you build in the game, and the intro segment of the game is huge. The intro segment, like, you're still doing intro style missions well into level 15 plus content, where it's like, here, do a basic dungeon. I'm level 15 on one of my characters, still haven't done a basic dungeon yet. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like you end up waiting a really long time for this game to get out of the holding your hand phase of this is everything you need to do, which is annoying in 2 factors. It's annoying because when you want to go and make a new character, you're looking at such a mountain of work to get over before the game actually starts getting even remotely fun, like even entertaining on any factor, because everything that you're doing here at the beginning is fetch quests. The second problem is that once you get up to level 15 with your quests and complete them all in one city on one character, it just sends you to the other cities to go and do basically those same missions again on your one character. So it's kind of like you end up playing intro style missions well up to like level 20, you know? And it's kind of like, and that's just on one character, let alone if you decided to play multiple characters, which is kind of what Misty and I like doing. We made a bunch of characters with the intent of playing them on the different roles. But then once you find out that it's like you're going to play 15 levels of intro and then another 5 levels of intro back to back after that, it's kind of like, what's the point? There's no fun in that. Like, we've played enough Final Fantasy already. We don't need a hand-holding 15 level plus intro to the game every time we want to make a new character. That's just, it's mind-boggling. Like, I'm with Misty where she said earlier, it's like, it's mind-bogglingly boring what they get you to do in this game. And I know people are going to be like, oh, but it's Final Fantasy, you know, it's like, it looks really awesome, yada, yada, yada. But, like, literally, or like I'm sure there are going to be people out there who have gushing reviews of this game where they're just like, it's the best thing since sliced bread. And it's like, I think that this game can only really be good in somebody's eyes if the only thing they've been playing till now has been Final Fantasy XI. Because yes, this is an improvement over Final Fantasy XI, but no, this is not an improvement over other competitive material that's out there at this time, especially on the console. You know?
Right.
It's like, I would much rather be playing DCUO, building new characters on there, where at least it's fun. At least, like, you're playing the same missions, but it's not like a giant 20 level fetch quest. It's, you're beating down on enemies, doing all kinds of crazy dungeons and powering up your character like crazy. Here you get new powers as you level up, but I know it's a Final Fantasy game, I know that it's turn based, yada yada yada. I was expecting that coming into the game, but it is just boring. Boring. Like, you're... Yeah. Like, do you want to add anything?
Boring. That's all I have to add. And Andrew has played more than I have.
I went to scout ahead just to see if it did get any better. It doesn't. That is my, full report.
I think it looks great. I think the characters, can look fantastic. I think the movement is fluid. I think the potential there is, if you just came in and looked at it and you say, wow, this is going to be a really good game. It's going to be really epic. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Like, I couldn't wait to go out and fight some of the crazy enemies and stuff out there in the world. But it's like they put some fun stuff out there with, like, the fates, where you have to go and, like, it's like a random instance out in the world. If you see the fate nearby, everybody goes and shows up, does it, and you can get some cool looking stuff to fight there. But everything else that you're doing in this game is like snooze festival. You are going to fall asleep trying to complete your missions.
I did fall asleep. So
yeah,
that's
it's a testament of truth. Like it's just.
It's hard to play when over and over and over and over and over, it seems like you're doing the exact same quest.
Yeah.
And the quest wasn't exciting to begin with.
The quest wasn't exciting to begin with, and they didn't even make like an effort to sort of like draw all of this stuff into the storyline. Like, I'm looking back at playing Final Fantasy XII here, but like when you start in that city, it's like, yeah, you're given your first few like go and explore missions and stuff. But even when they go out to send you out to go and fight your first enemy, you go out and fight some little tomato-looking monster out in the desert. And it's like, even that has a little story that's attached to it that actually makes you want to play the game. You're actually kind of like, oh, that sounds cool, I want to go see it. You go and find it, and you're like, wow, the level looks amazing, the music is great, this little guy's sitting out on the cliff, I'm going to go and whip the crap out of him, this is going to be awesome. You do it, it is awesome. You go back to the city, you collect your rewards, you're like, that was epic, I can't wait to get out there and do it again. Here, it's kind of like you go outside of the city, you fight ladybugs and squirrels, and it's just not that fun.
Well, the thing is, we also know that they're capable of better.
That's basically, yeah, what my critique would be, is that it's like the things that we play Final Fantasy games for, like, yeah, you have to go through and grind and fight the enemies and stuff, but I think everybody plays for the storyline. And when the storyline here is being communicated through text chat windows that you're skipping because it's just too much text to read, and then you're never really given any sort of like motivation towards doing stuff. Like I'll be honest, level 5, 10, 15, you get little missions where you go and you help somebody out. It's a different person each time, slightly harder and harder. Like a little mini boss. You're just fighting one sort of boss, his minions. You help somebody out, and you learn a little bit more about the story. Those parts of the game are cool. Why can't the whole game be made of those parts? Why is it that I'm sent out here to do boring questing to just basic, like, abilities, like, go and find somebody and drop this thing off for me, or go and find this basic enemy and take a few out and come back to me? It's like, why can't the whole game just be like one long, like, leads you through by the nose, edge of your seat, epic ride of helping people to fight massive bosses, and everything else in the game is just extra. It feels very much like you're playing so much of this game just to get to those little parts, and then you feel like you're being cheated. It's like, well, here's just something to make it seem like you know what I mean, that it's worth it to keep doing this stuff. But if there's no real, if you don't feel attached to the character or the things that are happening, there's no real draw to get involved with the storyline. If the storyline only happens once every 5 levels, and then the rest of the time you're just wandering around leveling your character up, doing menial tasks,
right?
So basically that it sort of leads us to I'm just going to show here, like, this is the map. You can see here, this is like one area of the city, you can go through these gates to Old Gridania, which is another area that's basically the same size. Every city is built the same way. You're given these missions. You go out, you do the missions, you come back. 95% of your time is spent just traveling, even though there are warp stones. It's just like, here, go and fight these enemies that are on the complete other side of the map. Go kill 3, and then come back to me. So, most of your mission is just travel time. You know? Which I don't like, it just seems like they're just...
And it's confusing to get around the world.
Yes. They could have done a much better job of... Like, you should be able to put a waypoint on this map by clicking a button, and then you can see that on your mini-map with an arrow pointing to it, at least. You know? Certain other things. But yeah, like, you can just see, like, this map that I bring up with Square, it's huge, and I can't adjust the size in my HUD. I have no choice about that. That's one more thing where it's kind of like, well, it's great for a PC player, kind of sucks for anybody else, you know? So, basically, it leads us to the end of our review. I know it's been a bit critiquing or critical of the game itself, but it's kind of like, we were both really excited to play a edge-of-your-seat Final Fantasy MMORPG, and this is not it. This feels like the... You know what I mean? Not even the middle of the road. This feels like, you know, Daisy Lane. It's like you're skipping along doing nothing, you know? It's hard to feel like you're accomplishing anything. Even if you were to get to endgame content, it would be kind of like, I just slogged through all of that for this. You know? Why couldn't I be doing this from the beginning and have just more interesting game stuff to fill up the time, instead of all of this boring stuff and then a little bit that looks even remotely interesting, but are you really going to do it? So, that leads me to say that this is a game that both Misty and I were looking for. We were going to do a Let's Play of this for our channel, even. Like, that was our plan. But now, after having tried the game out, played it for a little while... Nope. We're just not... It doesn't seem to be worth the expense of paying to play this monthly when neither of us is really enjoying it, and neither of us really can enjoy it because of all of the issues that we've gone over, as well as the fact that it's boring, you know? Like, it's not the MMO that says Final Fantasy to me. You know what I mean?
No.
It does certain things that are Final Fantasy-ish, and it's definitely, like, using aesthetics, and it looks great from a Final Fantasy point of view. But storyline-wise, like, my favorites are 10 and 12. And I know that that's not everybody's favorites, but at least those stories draw you through the game. You're like, yeah, I want to know what's going on. Yeah, I want to help these people out, and you know what I mean? And it's a huge, amazing adventure, and that's what I love about those games. And this just doesn't capture that at all for me.
No.
You know? Any final thoughts before we close it off?
Boring. That's my... Sorry. I know some people are really going to be into it, and that's great. I mean, if this is what does it for you, more power to you.
Like,
absolutely.
If you're a PC gamer, you'll probably love this. For a console gamer, huge disappointment. That's all I'm going to say. Misty and I, though, will be joining you guys as soon as we can, because we're going to have some fun with it first. But we're going to be doing a Kingdom Hearts 1.5 HD Let's Play coming up instead. Or we were going to do that anyways.
Anyway, but yeah.
We were going to do it anyways, but now we'll have more time to devote towards that. So at least there is stuff in the pipeline that's going to be interesting. We're going to try and go through all of the games that are on that disc, so we can give people who maybe haven't played that game a little look before Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out in a little while, and like give you your intro to that series and show you what we like about it and what we think's cool in there. So looking really forward to that and can't wait to do that. So it's unfortunate that this game just isn't going to be going on at the same time, but you know, there are other avenues out there if you're looking for more information about this game in particular. So this is just our opinions, our perspective, coming from the PlayStation 3 and our past and what we liked. So let us know in the comments what you think and what you like or dislike about the game. When we do a critique like this, we're not doing it because we want to just, you know, tear apart the game and be like, oh, it's horrible. No, Misty and I both like Final Fantasy. We both had really high hopes for this game, and if we feel let down, so we want to point out all the things that it's kind of like, if these had been taken into consideration and maybe a little bit better job had been done, we would be like, oh, you know, this is really cool. You know, this is something that we want to get into. But because it kind of falls apart with all of the controlling and your setting issues, as well as just the actual game itself not really being all that fun, we want them to come. We want somebody like Square Enix and Yoshi P, who made this game, to see a review like this and think about it and be like, these are things that I could do better next time, because we do want to play their game. We do want to be here. We both had collector's editions. This is a collector's edition that I'm not going to continue paying for because the game doesn't do it for me, especially as a console player. So just, you know what I mean? Leave your comments. Let us know what you think. And thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe. And we will have more fun content and exciting content with Kingdom Hearts. So Ninja Andrew here. Basically, I had done a little critique on this part of the game during our review section. When I was going over it, I think I could have done a better job, so I'm just going to quickly go over it again here. This is a critique of the control elements of the game, like this cross hotbar here, or the cross hotbar. So basically, I've loaded it out here with a full loadout. These are all emotes, so if I hit them, my character will do a bow, he'll wave goodbye, yada yada yada. Every single one of these has been loaded out. Now you can see here that there's a difference between the colors of what I've loaded out. I've done this intentionally between actions and gestures, basically so that you can see basically that I've put a set of 4 actions and 4 gestures on each of the buttons and color coordinated them so that you have gray ones on the outside and gold ones on the middle, and we'll go over why that is. It's just to illustrate a point. So basically, the further you get into this game, the more abilities you get and the more that you're going to have to load out in your hotbar here to be able to use. Now, from looking at the cross hotbar, you'd figure, oh, you got 16 abilities, that's great, you know, you should be able to do lots of stuff with them. I think that while the intentions behind creating the cross hotbar were good, I think that the final product, it's kind of lacking in certain areas and could have been a whole lot better in other ways. So I'm going to illustrate it here by just showing you, like, when I tab each of my triggers, these are my bottom triggers on my controller, on my gamepad. Basically, you can see if I'm holding the right trigger, that gives me the ability to hit the abilities that are on my right. Those would be in my right hand. So I'm holding the right trigger, hitting them with my right hand. I also, at the same time, have to pay attention to what abilities are available for my left hand to hit. Now, that's alright. I can have those 8 abilities loaded out pretty good. The problem becomes when you have to switch to this other side. It's sort of like, think about doing a mental swap, right? Except now, instead of holding with my right hand and using, I'm holding with my left hand and having to use. And I would say that 99% of people, their brains are wired so that one half of their brain controls the actions of each of their hands. I think that's like the standardized view. And basically, when you swap from a right-handed action using right-handed controls here and the left-handed ones to swap to using a left-handed one, you're more likely to want to go and hit those ones that are on the left hand, because when you switch from right hand to left hand, your brain just keeps going, oh yeah, more left-handed stuff. That's what I'm trying to do. So then when you actually want to go and hit these other ones, it's a little bit tricky to like think about, like, okay, so I'm starting my 3-hit combo here. I'm going to hit these 3 buttons in order, and then I'm going to give myself some buffs, and then I'm going to do another 3-hit combo over here that I could set up my buttons like that. But then if I want to do anything else that's complicated, I have to really be thinking in order to like swap back and forth and hit exactly what I want. Now, it's not a huge issue. Like, if you spent enough time, you'd be able to get used to it, and I think that if you put in the effort, you'd definitely be able to get a handle on it. But the thing is, for me, is that it's really, like, why does it have to be something that I have to wait to get a handle on and think about this much, when it's just to do basic controlling of my character? Like, it just sort of seems like a very finicky system where, you know, you have to think about, oh, okay, I'm over here, I'm doing these, and then, oh, okay, I need to do these 2, then I need to go back over here and hit these 2, and then I need to go, like, it's just so much to do all that. Now, the reason that it frustrates me is because the system, the way that I would have done it, and this is, I know that it's like, well, it's not your game and you didn't make it and yada yada yada, but whatever. If I had had the ability to control or to suggest like what to do with this controlling, like, you could still have the same number of buttons. I want to be able to use this many abilities, but I think what they should have done, you see the 8 abilities that I have in the middle that are in gold. Imagine instead if those were acting the same way as if I was pressing one of these and I have 8 abilities. So those 2 gold ones would be like my standard, I'm not pressing any triggers, and I would be able to activate those 8 abilities on my buttons. Then if I wanted to switch the abilities that were on my right hand, I could tab it, and it would give me access to those grayed out abilities that I would have tabbed over on my right hand. Then same, I'd have those 4 abilities on the left, and then if I pressed it over, I'd get the 4 grayed out abilities that would be added on instead. That way my brain can separate the right-handed actions from the left-handed actions, and I think that would have been a much better system for setting it up, because you'd just be able to combo so much easier between your 2 hands. It's like your right hand wouldn't be having to think about what your left hand is doing half the time, and your left hand wouldn't be having to think about what your right hand was doing half the time. You could just load out your abilities the way that you wanted them, and they would be right there for you to use. So it's frustrating because you're looking at it going like, man, it would have been so easy if they had just done it that way. But instead we have this system where it sort of like feels like you're working with a desktop. It's like, here's all the stuff that's on my desktop at this certain time, and then I can switch to this other desktop that's got all this other stuff on it, and then I switch back. It's not very organic feeling. It's kind of very artificial, very menu-y feeling. Whereas if it had just been like, oh, I can just hit the buttons naturally, those 8, and then tab up to switch out my right ones or my left ones on a whim or on the fly, like, it would have just been so much nicer. It would have felt much nicer. The way that it is now, it gets really hard when you start getting into having multiple 3-hit combos. Like, where do you put them? You have 4 buttons that you start over here with, right? So if you have the first 2 of your 3-hit combo and then the third one, what do you do with this 4th ability? Or if you do, here's the first 2, here's the second 2 of the 3 hits, where do you put the 3rd hit? Am I supposed to put him over here? I like those for buffs, kind of. You know what I mean? That's my D-pad. I normally think about having my D-pad set up as a buffing system. So it's like, Like, that's where I would have my healing or switch weapons in other games, right? So if it had been like, oh, I could tab over and then have all of my buffs, heals, and stuff over on my left hand only, and I didn't have to think about going over here and hitting buttons with my right hand, it would have just been so much nicer. So it's one of those things where you feel like this system was designed by somebody who understands the concept of what a controller is, what they're trying to do, but they don't actually understand from a player's perspective, like, this is what feels good naturally already, and this is how you would go to about improving it. So it's sort of like, it's weird, because they should have noticed when they were like, oh, we have to create this entirely new thing that nobody's ever done before. Somebody should have been like, isn't there a reason that nobody's ever done this on a console game before? It's because it's not that good. That's why we have other systems. That's why we have, like, other games that have, I wouldn't say that's a standard across any game, but it's just sort of like, usually games aren't trying to make you use both sides of your brain simultaneously back and forth just to control your character's actions and movements. So that's just my simple critique of the controlling and control schemes in this game. I'm sure you could make something that's going to work if you try hard enough, but it's just playing from the perspective where it's like, you know what it could be, and you know that it isn't, and you see how much work you have to do just to use it the way that it was intended. It's kind of disappointing just to have to do that much to use it. So that's it for this, and I'm going to come back in 2 more seconds with another added section on targeting systems, and that'll be it. So just keep watching and enjoy, guys. Sorry this is so long, just wanted to get out all the important parts. So alright guys, so Ninja Andrew back here again. I was editing this review and I realized that there was one major point that I missed, so I'm going to head outside of the city just to illustrate that really quickly for you guys right before I go. I thought it was important enough that it deserved to be in here, so that's why I'm just going to add it in here. One other comment that I'll make while I'm here is you can see that the chat window is just being spammed with cheap gold offers. I think that that should be illegal, or at least it shouldn't be allowed in the game. It's a horrible waste of a chat window, especially when I can't get rid of the chat window. It's like, I don't want to see that all day. That's not what I'm paying for. You know what I mean? That's just ruins and cheapens the whole feel of the game. If you want to advertise for your stuff, there are other avenues to do that. You don't need to spam the chat window. It's just dumb. And I'm sure it's a problem that they'll have to deal with forever, but like, just get rid of the words, you know, gold, gil, sell, cheap. There you go. I'm pretty sure you'd eliminate a lot of the people because they just wouldn't be able to say what they need to say, you know? Alright, so maybe the best thing to do to give this example would be trying to acquire a target to heal them who's already in battle. So I'm going to go ahead here. Now, come on. I have my settings set so that I should be able to target the next available non-party, as well as, why can't I target this person? I could probably do it if I pressed up and down on the D-pad and over to them, but that takes a lot of steps. You know what I mean? Especially if I was in battle and I was like, oh, I need to just throw this person a real quick heal. It's actually going to target pretty much, like, I'm going to target this guy's Eggy before I target him. You know? Like, these are just little minor issues, and that's just with, like, acquiring your first target. So if you're running in to a battle, you got to know that, like, if I'm trying to target my allies, if they're in your party, you can press up and down on the D-pad and select them using the party list. But that just kind of makes me go like, well, why do I have this other targeting system if I was just going to be targeting people through the party lists? And then why can't I see close by NPCs, close by players or something in that list as well, just to make it easier? Because, like, literally, like, I know she doesn't have any health down or whatever right now, but, like, how hard is it to target a single person so that you can give them a heal as a healer? There we go. Oh, I have to target them while they're not in combat, not doing anything. And it's like, that's not useful at all. That's just like, you know, it's okay, it's decent for targeting the enemies. You can switch, I want to say relatively okay, but look there, like, I wanted to switch over. Puts me to some other random junk. It's like, oftentimes it works best essentially for a PlayStation or console version of this game, because you're targeting with X. Basically works to just stick to the one enemy that you've got, because often if you lock onto him, right, then you unlock while you're in combat, and let's say, like, try to go around him and target some other thing, there's just usually so much there that you're not gonna ever really end up targeting what it is that you want. You can target enemies that are open and in the clear and free and easy to see from all sides, but stuff that's in the middle of a pile of junk of people fighting, like, oh, let me throw this guy a heal. You know, I have to actually manually select him, which is, it's a little annoying. It's kind of like, really, it would have been nicer if it had been a system where, like, I could just point at the thing that I want, click on it, and be like, that's the enemy I want to fight. Not pull me over to this next thing. You know, and for the most part, it does work like that as long as you're looking down at the floor of whatever it is that you're trying to target. But as you can see here, there are certain just silly rules that override it, that make it, like, the reason I think that this is important is because it's one of these things where it's like, it makes the game frustrating to play, because you know what you're supposed to be doing, you know what you're trying to do, and you can't do it. And it's not just in this aspect of the game, it's in many aspects of the game, that you know what they were going for, like with the cross media, or the cross hotbar here, right? You know what they were going for, but the real fact of the matter is at the end of the day, it doesn't feel right, it doesn't work to complete, or to, you know what I mean, to achieve the goals that they were intending with designing or creating that thing. It's like, if the cross hotbar actually makes it more difficult as a console player to control the game, then how is that helpful? If the targeting system makes it more difficult to control as a console player, like, why doesn't the targeting system, why isn't it different than the PC system where you can just click on whoever you want with a mouse? You know what I mean? I get that you're trying to make, like, a marriage between the two worlds, but it's just like, I'm going to go back to Kingdom Hearts here because it's another Square Enix game, and so they should have experience with this. But it was just like, even in that game, okay, the targeting wasn't perfect. I ended up most of the time actually turning off the auto lock on targeting so that I could select between which ones I wanted just by going and fighting them, and then I'd lock onto them. But even that is a better system, even though it's half broken, than what this is. Because I can't ever seem to select what it is that I'm aiming to select or meaning to select. So that's just a real, like, it's a shame, because it's one more thing that's just, it makes the game not playable on a console or for PS3 for me personally. Now I know there's people out there who will be like, oh, but I love it and it doesn't really matter to me. I'm willing to, you know what I mean? I'm willing to have these controls that aren't so good because it's such a fantastic game, and I would just have to disagree. That's you know, to me, controlling is all part of the game, and if it doesn't feel right and I can't do what I'm wanting to do, and I'm just getting frustrated trying to do it, then what's the real point? You know, like, I thought I was supposed to be having fun, enjoying this, and feeling like I was doing something, not struggling just to make the game work in its intended way, you know? So that's all I really wanted to add. It's just one more of those things to add to the list, on top of every other issue that this game has that really makes it not enjoyable. Because it's silly. Like really, I can't go and just target a guy who needs some health. Like, I can't. I'm a healer. You would figure that was my job. You know? So that's all. Thank you for watching, and, you know, please leave your comments. I'm always interested in what people have to say about my critiques and criticism of games. And join us again next time for more epic adventures with Dark Ninja Gaming. Thank you, and goodbye.